Hello, I'm Kaveh, Senior Reporter at Professional Pensions. I'm here today with AgeWage Chief Executive and controversial blogger Henry Tapper on his boat, the Lady Lucy, where we'll be talking pensions past, present and future.
Lady Lucy is a wonderful, wonderful boat. I was given her back in 2001 by a client who said, if you can do her up, you can have her. Although it was a free gift, it took £300,000 to do her up, but what you see behind us is the fruits of that labour. For the last 20 years, we've had a fantastic time on the boat. Osborne's, who made her back in 1946, were a lifeboat manufacturer for the RNLI, and isn't she lovely?
Can you talk me a little bit through your pensions career? What have been the peaks and troughs?
There aren't many peaks, there's plenty of troughs. I started back in the early 80s selling life assurance. I worked for a long time for Allied Dunbar, and I ended up working for another part of the Zurich empire as it became, for Eagle Star and then for Zurich. And the wonderful, wonderful thing about working for Zurich was working with a great fella called Jonathan Pohl. Many of your readers will know he's now at Insight, and that was a lovely, lovely time. So that's the kind of peak. And John and I had a cracking time meeting lots and lots of trustees and people around who are senior now in the pensions industry. That was a really lovely time in my life.
So how much has pensions changed since you started out in the industry?
It's changed completely. Back in the early 80s, pensions were things which you got from the government or from your company. Or if you were very posh, you got them from an insurance company via a guaranteed annuity rate. Today, it's not about pensions, it's about wealth. And it's about how you can organise your retirement finances using the pension freedoms. So we've moved completely away from the idea of pensions and towards something quite different, which is wealth.
Do you think, through the years, there's anything that, government, regulators or the industry have done that you would have done differently, that you didn't agree with?
There were some tragedies along the way. I was recorded in Parliament as saying, I wasn't in Parliament, but Barbara Castle said this. She said, that nice chap from Eagle Star, who said that all funded pensions should aspire to the simplicity of SERPs. I think it's a sad thing when we got rid of the state earning related pension scheme. And I said so at the time, but we did. And we moved on, yeah. And it's one of the strengths of Britain is that we recover from these sad things. We do something better. And actually, I was proved wrong. We did something better than SERPs when we set up auto-enrolments and auto-enrolment workplace pensions, which have proved to be a great success, not just with the Treasury and the DWP, but most importantly with the public-like pensions again.
So what do you think the key issues are now in pensions today?
The key worry that I have is that people reach retirement and they don't know what to do. Yeah. They haven't got that default option which they used to have, which used to be a pension from the government or from a company or even an insurance company. And what they have instead is a lot of choice, but not a lot of information on how to make a good choice. And these are big, big decisions which they're having to take. So that's my big worry, is that people have got big choices, but they haven't got a way of taking them.
There's a consultation out now on investment pathways, and obviously the PLSA has spoken a lot about this as well. So do you think we're going in a good direction?
I think that the investment pathways are the right direction for people to take when they're coming up to retirement. It gets them thinking, it gets them moving towards what they want. Do they want certainty? Do they want to do things for themselves? Do they want to put off a decision, or do they want to give their money to a wealth manager to manage for them? Those are simple choices which people can take. So coming back to what I was saying about how hard it is to take choices, I think the investment pathways are a good way to start.
Where has industry, government and regulators, where have we gone right in the industry?
Well, I've mentioned auto-enrolment already, yeah? But there are some things on the horizon which I think are really good, yeah? CDC is one of them. Yeah. CDC is a way of going back to that sort of pension which was around back in the late 70s and early 80s when I was a kid, yeah? That was how people thought about pensions as something which they got, has a certain amount of discretion from the company about what they could do for you, but there was certainly a feeling that people were acting in your best interest. I think CDC is a step in the right direction, even if it's a step backwards towards a world which has been gone for 30 or 40 years. I think the other thing which is really good, which is going to help people, is the pensions dashboard. And in particular, the fact that the dashboard is going to help people to find all those bits of pension which they've lost over the years. I was 54 when I brought my pensions together. To my amazement, I had 11 pensions. I say amazement because I thought I only had 7, but there were 4 of them which I'd forgotten all about. Yeah, and I got hold of them and I brought them together and I put them in one big pot, and it was really good. And now I feel quite confident about how I'm going to manage my money. Now, okay, I'm a pensions expert typey chap, but not everyone has got the capacity to do what I did, which was fight with insurance companies for the information and so on. So what we want is a pensions dashboard where we can see everything in one place.
Do you think Master Trust should adopt CDC, and how do you think they could take advantage of the dashboard? Well,
I think both things are really important for Master Trust. First of all, Master Trusts need a back end. Yeah, it's a bit like building a skyscraper which goes up 10 floors. Yeah. But the other 10 floors, the next 10 floors, have yet to be built. Yeah? That's what we have at the moment with Master Trust, sort of half-built skyscrapers. Yeah? So let's try and get the second half, the decumulation phase, as everyone says. Yeah? Let's get that sorted. A CDC can sit very nicely as part of a Nest or Now or People's Proposition, or indeed, and I'm really pleased to see people like Salvas being quite proactive about it. Part of a Salvas arrangement or a Blue Sky arrangement or an Aon or Mercer or whatever arrangement. So yes, I think that's a really good thing for Master Trusts. Now you said how are Master Trusts going to benefit from the pensions dashboard? I think the big thing there is that pot follows member is critical to the success of Master Trusts. Because Master Trusts at the moment have got these tiny little pots. Yeah, Nest has got 7.5 million pots, but it hasn't even got £7.5 billion worth of assets. So the average pot size is tiny. And what the dashboards will do is help people not just to see what they've got, but to bring things together. And by bringing things together, we'll start seeing a little bit of a pot follows member initiative, which Steve Webb wanted in the first place.
What advice would you give to younger workers now that you've sort of seen a lot of things in the industry now?
The big thing that every kid I know, including my own kid, wants is they want to do something with their money which is actually going to help this planet in 20, 30, 40 years' time. Yeah? The environmental sustainability agenda is absolutely critical to younger people. And we've got to get people in touch with the way they're invested and to feel that they're invested with some kind of social purpose. So it's not a question of waiting. We can't sit around and wait 5, 10, 15 years to do this. We've got to do it now. We've got to get people to feel in touch with what they own, which is the money in their pension schemes. We've got to get them to feel that they're actually a part of the ownership of that money, the investment of that money. Yeah.
So do you think this sort of next generation of workers that are working in pensions, in whatever aspect of pensions it may be, do you think that's where they could really make a difference? Because, like you said, they do care about the environment more, maybe, you could argue. Do you think that that's where they will particularly put a lot of focus on when it comes to investments?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And if we gave these people, these young people, the right to vote on certain things, such as the ESG agenda, I think that would be fabulous. Yeah. And if we can give people the right to switch out of unsustainable type things into funds which do good things, I think that's a great thing. And I think we've really got to give people those kind of choices and say to them, look, these choices are available. Do you want them?
Yeah. And my last question is, so our audience is very trustee focused. What do you think the future of trusteeship is?
Yeah, well, I could witter on for hours about this, but I think the really important thing to note is that actually there are far too many schemes out there, and there are far too many trustees. Yeah. What we need is to consolidate around the really best practice that we can see out there. So if you look at someone like Nest at the moment, spending a lot of time thinking about how to actually engage members, what sort of things trustees can do to meet the agendas of young people and so on. You look at that and you think, yeah, okay, but Nesta's got the money to do that. I look at a lot of small trustees, they haven't got the money to do it, and I wonder whether or not they're really able to do their job. So I see the future of trustees as basically as IGCs, as master trusts. I see them as the trustees of large occupational pension schemes. But I'm afraid to see, I see small pension scheme trustees increasingly having to be looked after by professionals who will be more compliance officers than the kind of imaginative trustees that we see at the top. But that's necessary.
But is bigger always better when it comes to pension schemes?
No, absolutely not. And I see, I work for First Actuarial, and they have lots of small organisations who offer fantastic pension schemes for their staff, and the trustees act with total conviction. But let's face it, of the 7,500 DB schemes out there, only a handful behave like that. And frankly, most occupational DC schemes shouldn't really exist. They'd be much better off inside of master trusts or even as GPPs. So I'm not saying that you can't get great trustees. They're a rarity, and we really need to see trustees acting with conviction in order for us to want them, for them to continue.